Hi, it's me, P. And I'm by the forest. There's a little clearing, you could say. I'm sitting on a bunch of dry moss on these rocks and just listening to the birds. I have been listening to a lot of audiobooks lately. I've been listening to Divine Might about Greek goddesses by Natalie Haynes. A really good book. But I would say that she probably has written better books. I think that this author, great narrator for the book, but I think that there was a little bit too much pop culture references, and I've read on Goodreads that her other books are better. So I did get a little bit bored through the book because I was expecting more historical stories. So I definitely do recommend that book, even if it's probably the worst book on this list. It was interesting to find out about the Greek goddesses and that they're not always as their stereotypes seem to us nowadays. You know, for example, like Athena was very much into doing the masculine things and ditching women for the sake of patriarchy. And Hera, who's extremely vindictive and jealous, a wife. Oh, it's the cuckoo. So, but Hera also had a really terrible life and basically married her stepbrother or something, her brother Zeus. So, you know, there was a lot of iffy stuff going on in the Greek mythology. So that was interesting. Then I listened to an audiobook. Well, right now I'm listening to a book called How Not to Fit In by Jess, Joyce, and Mia something. Both of them are autistic and ADHD women, and it's a really good book. I do recommend. I'm almost finished. I'm like at 90% of the audiobook, so I really recommend. It's less like a worksheet, but then Unmasking Autism is actually like better in that respect. But it talks a little bit more about their personal experiences and experiences of other women with autism and ADHD. And I like how positive they are about these diagnoses. And I also have been listened to an audiobook by Amanda Montell. I did a review of her Notes on Magical Irrationality book. She also wrote a book called Cultish, but I haven't, and I really love that concept of cults, right? But I haven't found the audiobook for that. So, and all three audiobooks are narrated by their authors, which is the best kind of audiobook. And I find that the narration on all three of these are very, very exciting and varied, and they make me want to listen. So I enjoyed all three. And this book is called Wordslut. I don't know if YouTube will bleep this or whatever, but it's a really good book about feminism, taking back the English language. And it's interesting because what she was talking about, a lot of curse words. There's a lot of curse words in this book, so that you know. I mean, it says so on the cover, but it's interesting, like how gendered curse words, they're more likely to be negative when they're female. The C word is a word that I will never use, but it's very used in Australia for like anything. I don't know why they decided to choose that word. I can use shit and fuck, it's fine. I'm not really a person who swears that much, because I feel like I'd rather get my frustration out at home, alone, you know, and not through words that can shock other people, you know. But I'm not against it. But Amanda Montell seems to be a person who swears a lot. I give this book 5 out of 5. Narration 6 out of 5. It's really good because when she does an audiobook, it's better than actually probably the actual book, because she does the intonation of the different sentences and phonetics that she's talking about, and that's very helpful, because she was talking about uptalk, about how women are considered to more likely to end their sentences upwards and seem insecure because of that. But actually it's also a common feature of there's a snake. Oh shoot. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay guys, I'm very crunchy, but do you see that? Shoot. Oh my god. Well, I'm glad that he didn't end up like right next to my legs. Okay, let's go. He's slithering away. Let him have some peace. Okay. Right, so back to feminism and linguistics. It's interesting because in Australian they would say like, hey mate, like the upwards at the end. And it's not just reserved for women, but it's just because women use it, it makes it, people like to make fun of that kind of way of speaking. Except if it's a man who's doing that, obviously. People like to make fun of women who say you know and like, but that's actually a way for a woman to connect with people. And like is actually a very useful word. As you know, I say you know quite a lot, and I say like quite a lot. And that's because I feel like I can connect to you guys better, you know? And like can mean so many different things. Apparently there are like 7 uses to the word like or something. She said that like can be used to say, oh, and he was like, and I was like, without needing to quote the actual person. You're relating a discussion, conversation, and there's no other way to explain it in the English language in that good way. So using like is not bad. And you can use like as saying about. It's like it's about 2 kilos. It's like 2 kilos. And like being used to compare things with each other. Like when you do this. And like is used as a filler word, but that's like, you know, people use and it's not wrong to use like and you know. It's just a different kind of speech, and speech evolves over time, so it's not like a fixed thing. On the other hand, what is a fixed thing is interesting is that in France, where I grew up, the Académie Française is basically a group of old white men who decide what's in the French dictionary. And the dictionary is very fixed because nobody's allowed to change it, basically, except for these white dudes. And that means that the French language is very antiquated because of that. And it means that the gendered language that French is stays that way. And I grew up with the French language, and I grew up speaking French. And so for me, I learned that every noun is gendered, is masculine or feminine. A word like a tree is un arbre. Like, okay, so I'm supposed to imagine that all trees are masculine. And for me, the sea is la mer, it's feminine. But apparently in Spanish, it's el mar. It's the sea is masculine. And like, it takes a while for me to wrap my head around it because I'm so used to things having a certain gender. And in English, we don't have those kinds of genders. In Swedish, we don't have genders, but we have like two sorts of neutral terms, in and et words, but like 90% are n words and 10% are et words. There isn't much of a logic in either of those languages. There isn't logic in any language that has gendered terms, but it does create a problem because if you want to talk to a group of children in French, or a group of people, you basically conjugate as if it was a group of masculine terms, except if the whole group is comprised of feminine. So if there's all men and one woman, or if it's all women except for one man, then you would say that it's masculine. The masculine takes over the feminine. Which, if the grammar rules themselves are sexist, then how are you going to make women equal to men, if it's embedded in your language? When I was a small child, I was 5, I had this little rhyme that I learned in preschool that I taught one of my friends, who ended up becoming my biggest bully later on. But she was like an ISTJ or something. She was really into just like following the rules, and I didn't always understand the rules, and that included grammar rules apparently, even at our young age, because I was like, there was a rhyme about like anytime that I would get hurt, like I would fall on the floor or something, I would repeat this. I would say, aïe, ouille, ça fait mal, j'ai les yeux qui mouillent comme une grenouille. Like, ow, ow, like my eyes are tearing up like a frog. And it's une grenouille. It's a feminine term. Grenouille is frog. But I would always say un grenouille, because for me, like, a frog was obviously masculine. I don't know why, but for me, like, frogs were a masculine term. But she was like, no, and she would make me repeat it and say it the right way. And it would take me several times to get it right. And it doesn't matter now at all. But so you're taught that certain things are masculine and feminine, and it's a weird concept, but that's how it is. The word gender comes from genre, which is the French word for type. It's genus is type in Latin, which is why we have the genus species, like in the phylogenic tree. But then there comes a point where it's extremely sexist, because a lot of job titles are masculine in French. So it's le docteur, le pompier, le policier, le juge, all of these different jobs. And so a female doctor would be le docteur anyway, because it's a male word. Doctor is a male word. And people are trying to reclaim it, trying to think like, should I be called la docteur? Like the feminine doctor? And I thought about this for myself. And I think that in the end I would be un docteur, even though I'm female. And whatever you do, you're in a double bind. It's bad both ways. If you decide to choose to be un docteur if you're female, or le docteur, masculine, that means that in order to get to the position that you're in, you have to pretend, like you have to take on masculine characteristics. You're basically pretending to be a man. It's weird. Well, if I call myself la docteur, because people aren't used to that way of gendering that word into a feminine, then they would bring attention to the fact that I'm a woman, and therefore kind of delegitimize my position. So I would be, it's kind of if you were calling yourself a doctoress or something. It would be really weird, and also it would really bring to the fact that you're a woman first and a doctor second, which, you know, is not a great position either. So you're really, it's a tricky situation, because how are you going to fix an entire language that is built on gender and gender differences? In Sweden, they have schools where instead of calling the children boys and girls, they say friends. So they say vänner. Let's go and eat lunch, you know. They'll be like, friends, let's come, let's go. Instead of saying boys and girls, you know, it's time to go into the classroom, you know. So that's my ISFJ friend's mom. Actually worked at such a school because she's a school teacher, and she wasn't really used to it because she came from Italy, or she lived many years in Italy, and you know, in Italian it's impossible to degender the language. But you would call a person hen, rather than hun, which is the feminine, and han, which is the masculine. So instead, a person would be called hen, which is kind of like putting she and he together. Apparently in the early 2000s, people would start using the neutral pronoun z, the combination of he and she, but that never really took off. Instead, now we're trying with they, them, which is a plural, but you can use it. Apparently, even the Queen of England has used they to convey he or she. So that is something that happens. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by a butterfly that's sitting on a branch. It's fighting with all its might against the wind. But, oh, it flew away right when I tried to point the camera towards it. But yeah, so it's interesting, this whole thing about language and gender. I definitely rate that book very highly at the moment. In my bag I have The Hounds of Baskervilles, the Sherlock Holmes book, which I guess that I'm going to read next. I have also all of those non-fiction books, but I want to get back into fiction again, because it's, yeah, I need some variety and things. I've been thinking about a lot of stuff about autism and ADHD. I'm just taking a break from all of that right now, and just going to be focusing on being in the sun, being in the forest, and enjoying the weather, and then prepare for my move. So yeah, have a great day, everybody. Bye.